Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Thursday that Israel and Egypt have a vested interest in maintaining their peace treaty, then adding that the 1979 agreement ensured stability at the heart of the Middle East. Netanyahu's comments came as renewed popular unrest in Egypt, resulting in the deaths of 36 protesters, has prompted the country's ruling military to speed up the transfer of power to a civilian government. Netanyahu also tied in the Arab Spring to peace talks, saying that Israel is very interested in having democratic neighbors, but that scenario is far from being certain. We may find ourselves in an environment more hostile than ever, and so we must be careful not to do anything that would risk Israel's security. The PM also spoke on recently published sanctions against Iran and its nuclear program imposed by the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and France. After the International Atomic Energy Agency report, everyone agrees that Iran is working feverishly to attain nuclear weapons. The argument is over. Iran is working and advancing the nuclear weapons development plan in any way it can. In the face of the newly announced sanctions, Netanyahu said that while the new measures were important, stronger sanctions were needed, saying that current sanctions would not be enough. An influential Iranian parliamentarian has said that the country has arrested 12 agents of the American Central Intelligence Agency. Parviz Saruri, who sits on the powerful Committee of Foreign Policy and National Security, said that the alleged agents had been operating in coordinations with Israel's Mossad and other regional agencies and targeted the country's military and its nuclear program. Saruri was quoted as having said on Wednesday that the U.S. and Zionist regimes' espionage apparatuses were trying to damage Iran both from inside and outside with a heavy blow, using regional intelligence services. Iran periodically announces the capture or execution of alleged U.S. or Israeli spies, and often no further information is released. This current announcement follows the unraveling by Lebanon's Hezbollah of a CIA spy ring in that country. Hezbollah reportedly works closely with Iran. Will former International Monetary Fund Chairman Dominique Strauss-Kahn replace incumbent Bank of Israel Governor Stanley Fischer? French dailies Francois and Midi Libre reported Wednesday that Strauss-Kahn may be nominated as the next governor of the Bank of Israel once Fischer steps down in 3.5 years. Strauss-Kahn made headlines in the past year after being forced to resign from the IMF following his arrest in the charges of sexual assault and attempted rape of a New York hotel maid, which were dismissed by a New York court last August following doubts concerning the maid's credibility. According to the French papers, Strauss-Kahn and his wife, journalist Anne Sinclair, who visited Israel last week, may immigrate to the Jewish state for an indefinite period of time. The French couple's visit to Kahn's Jewish-French friend, Jean Friedman, led to a slew of rumors regarding his future position. In a breakthrough development, the Israeli company Vaxil Biotherapeutics has formulated a therapeutic cancer vaccine, now in clinical trials at Hadassah University Medical Center in Jerusalem. If all goes well, the vaccine could be available about 6 years down the road to administer on a regular basis, not only to help treat cancer, but in order to help the disease from recurring. The vaccine is being tested against a type of blood cancer called multiple myeloma. If the substance works as hoped, and it looks like the arrows are pointing that way, its platform technology, VaxHit, could be applied to 90% of all known cancers, including prostate and breast cancer, solid and non-solid tumors. A new report released Wednesday by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development reveals encouraging figures about the healthcare situation in Israel. Israeli life expectancy is among the highest in the world, and fifth among OECD countries. Infant mortality rate is among the lowest in the world, and a significant improvement has been recorded in the treatment of chronic diseases. And yet, Israel's situation is not so good when it comes to the treatment of asthma and lung diseases. According to the report, most OECD countries recorded a significant rise in life expectancy rates in recent decades, thanks to the improvement in living conditions, public health interventions, and the improvement in medical care. Israel has one of the world's highest life expectancies, standing at 81.6 years in 2009, about 2 years more than the OECD average of 79.5, which is Japan, having the highest life expectancy in 2009 of 83 years. The difference between male and female life expectancy in Israel in 2009 stood at 3.8 years in favor of women. Men live 79.7 years on average. Women live 83.5 years. The difference is relatively low compared to the OECD average, which stood at 5.5 years in favor of women.